This episode of The Young Turks is brought to you by Gamefly. Go to gamefly.com/TYT for your free trial membership.
Here's my point, and I'll put it a little bit more crass than I did on MSNBC, of course. My point is, are we full of crap or are we not? So when we say, hey, we're in favor of democracy, do we actually totally and utterly don't mean it? And so we're just in favor of a dictator in Egypt if we like it, but we're in favor of democracy in Iraq if we can use that as a pretense for invasion. Or we have the elections in the Palestinian territories, Hamas wins, and then we go, screw it.
Right, but I mean, of course not. But we, by the same token, I mean, are we full of crap, meaning me and you, or are we not? Because the fact of the matter is, yeah, we're in favor of democracy, but we didn't think getting rid of Saddam was a good idea. And he was a dictator that maintained a degree of peace and stability in that region. So I guess we're not in favor of democracy in that case. And Mubarak is, by the way, you're like a maybe dictator. I think we can go ahead and say a guy who wins with 92% of the vote every single time he has an election and has declared a state of martial law for 29 years. I mean, I think the emergency decree of martial law, I don't think we're on the cusp of it being over. Because now, by the way, I think you need martial law, maybe for the first time. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a cop-out to say it's complicated. Of course it's complicated. But, I mean, by the same token, yeah, of course we're in favor of democracy, but democracy is complicated. It's messy, and we got to know what democracy exactly means because, of course, it's not like you're going to overthrow Mubarak and then 6 months later we're going to have an election and we're going to know who wins because it matters who wins.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it should matter who wins. Like, hey, if the Muslim Brotherhood wins, that really sucks for us and a sad day for us. But, okay, then if we don't like that and we definitely don't want that, let's just be honest and say, okay, turns out we're not for democracy.
Well, okay, but I mean, I don't think you know me and hypocrisy. It's okay. It doesn't have to be just a sad day for us. I mean, you get to exert your influence. At some point, you don't get to go to war to exert your influence, but you get to exert your influence. And then ultimately, if there's nothing you can do to exert that influence, and if exerting your influence is standing in the way of a movement, a tidal wave that just can't be stopped, then you got to get out of the way. But it doesn't mean you have to get out of the way right now.
Yeah, my last point on this, Ben, is that I think it does, and I'll tell you why. Because if this is not Iran, where we don't have much sway, we might have some moral sway, some maybe ideological sway, whatever it might be with the pro-democratic movement. But in Egypt, we have real sway because we give them a ton of money. And so people are hooked on that money. If we say, hey, we're not giving the money to Mubarak anymore, the people who are the final beneficiaries of that, some of whom, of course, are not Mubarak, are going to say, whoa, now it's time for change, right? So we do have real power in this case. And if you don't do it now, I mean, in the middle of 250,000 people showing up in the streets of Cairo, well, then you're just not going to do it.
Well, all I will say to that is, and my final point will be, what does now mean? Does now mean today, or does now mean in the next 3 weeks? And if at some point we play a role, sometime in the next 2 months, of orchestrating some sort of peaceful exodus for the Mubarak government, then we've done our jobs.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Mubarak leaves in 3 weeks, I'm throwing a party.
If he leaves in 2 months, then we can have that same party.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Ben. I'm afraid that 2 months is an excuse, and he's not going to leave in 2 months. If I thought for sure he's going to leave in 2 months, deal, right? But if he says 2 months later, everything has calmed down, he's arrested half the people who were doing the protests, all of a sudden he's not leaving. You see what I'm saying?
No, of course not. I don't know what's going to happen in 2 months. I'm just painting a scenario where perhaps the end result is where something good happens that's not us saying he's got to go now, we're with the protesters. And that's never been said by any administration in the history of the United States. Doesn't mean it's right. That's just what's happened. But it doesn't matter because what Mubarak has done today is a real sign of change. Because the old guard cabinet is out and a bunch of social reformers, a bunch of young guns, they're in, and it's a new path for Egypt, so I don't think we have anything to worry about.
Cenk, people don't know this about me, but I'm an underground gamer.
I
love to play video games.
Well, then you're going to love our new sponsor, Gamefly. They're the largest online video game rental service in the world. 7,000 titles, new and classic. Also, no late fees, no due dates. Shipping's always free.
Go to gamefly.com/TYT for a free trial membership.